Welcome to the Simplified Integration Podcast. This is episode number 33, Stop Paying for Consulting Upfront.
Leonardo da Vinci once said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and I agree. You see, the problem with the way that most consulting groups approach medical integration is anything but simple. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's expensive, it's complicated, and quite frankly, it's exhausting. Enough is enough. There are far too many amazing integrated clinics that are struggling. Well, I'm on a mission to change that. What I've come to find from over 5 years working with integrated practices is that simplicity really is the secret. The old saying of less is more is true. Through a streamlined approach, I was able to create multiple successful 7-figure integrated clinics, and now I'm going to show you how you can do the same. Join me as I share with you the secrets to successful medical integration and practice growth. Join me on a journey to greater sophistication through innovation. I'm Dr. Andrew Wells, and welcome to the Simplified Integration Podcast.
What's going on, Doc? It's great to have you here on the Simplified Integration Podcast. Thanks for joining me here for another episode. So today we're going to talk about the concept of paying for consulting fees or management fees up front. And just so we're clear, I have flip-flopped on this issue, and I'll explain why I've done that and why I do things the way we do now. But I want to, one of the things that really, there's two things actually that brought this to my attention. And I want to start off with a story recently. If you look across our street, our neighbor decided last winter to build an in-ground pool. He has a bunch of grandkids, he and she, and they like the grandkids to come over, and they wanted a pool for them to swim in. So the guy hired a pool contractor and a company to come out, and they paid him some money to build an in-ground pool. Now this was last November of 2019, and I'm currently recording this podcast in September of 2020. So paid him some money, the contractor came out, dug a big hole in his yard, and started the whole process in November of building the pool. Well, December came, and the contractors weren't there. He just had a hole in the ground. January, February comes, and there's still no progress on the pool. And my neighbor's like, hey, I keep calling this pool contractor, and he's not showing up. I really want this pool to be ready in the springtime so my grandkids can swim and we can have a good time. Well, spring comes around, and still like no sign of the contractor. And then finally one day, this pool truck shows up. They drop off a bunch of supplies, they leave, and then they didn't hear from the pool contractor again for another couple of months. So winter has come and gone, spring has come and gone, summer is finally here. And I go to my neighbor, I'm like, Joel, where is this pool company? Like, you should have your pool by now. And he was like, he's a super nice guy. And he was pissed. He's like, man, he goes, I don't know what to do. I can't get a hold of them. They keep saying they're going to show up, but they always have an excuse. Like it's bad weather, or one of the employees quit, or like there's always something going on. And I said, well, like, I hope you haven't paid them for this. Like, why don't you just fire them and hire a new company? And he goes, well, that's a problem. He said, I paid the whole thing up front because they gave me a discount. And I'm like, oh man. So the problem is this guy's got, like, the pool company has all his money, and they have zero motivation now to deliver on the things that they promised. And so this guy is stuck, he can sue the company, but then he's got to pay attorney fees and all that. He's like, you know what? I just have to be patient. I realize I'm not getting this pool by summertime, and it's just a huge mess. And so I feel really bad for the guy. And alternatively, so we have a pool as well. And this spring, we took the cover off the pool, and we looked in there, and there's a huge crack at the bottom of the pool. And the pool is like almost 20 years old. It's getting pretty old. And we called the pool contractor, and he goes, you know what? By the way, we had the same problem last year that we patched the crack and patched the hole, and it was okay for a year. But it happened again, and the pool guy's like, he goes, listen, this is going to keep happening unless you completely resurface the pool. So we had to bite the bullet, hired this company to completely resurface the pool. So they took all the old like concrete and material out, and they were going to come in and retile it and resurface the whole pool. So the difference between how we approach that with our pool company is that we agreed on a contract that we only pay the contractor for a percentage of the contract based on what work they complete. So for example, if they completed 25% of the pool, we give them 25% of the fee. So we didn't pay anything up front, we just paid as we went. And typical with pool companies is that these guys, they're working on multiple pools in different states, and it was tough to get these guys to show up. And we had to stay on them. We even enticed them with lunch, like, hey, if you guys come out today, my wife's gonna make you guys a lunch, and we have drinks and coffee and all that for you guys. And so the guys came out, and they did a really good job. And the funny thing is, here's the deal: the pool company completed 95% of the work. They still haven't, because this is spring, it's now fall, they still haven't put in the railing, and they were supposed to change the light that's underneath the pool, and they still haven't done that. So guess what? They haven't received their last check. And so until they complete the job, we're not paying them in full, but we still have full use of our pool. They actually did a really good job. We're swimming in it. It's really nice. But the difference is we didn't pay them up front. And so they still had skin in the game to complete the job. And although they haven't finished it, we can still use it, and we're not hassling them because we still owe them several $1,000s to put in the railing and the light. But for the most part, the thing is done. So the only difference is the different companies, but the only difference is how we paid the contractor to do the work. Now, the problem with healthcare and the problem with consulting in any field, whether it's healthcare, business, whatever, is that the contractor has to have some skin in the game. And here's the problem I'm seeing with healthcare integration or medical integration, is that you have several what I call big box management companies that charge a really steep upfront fee to teach you how to integrate and to teach you all the protocols and how to run an integrated office. And that's all fine and well. But what's happening is that clients and chiropractors are paying 40, 50, 60, 80, over 6 figures, a lot of money to contracting companies up front with the expectation that they're going to deliver a really quality and high level of service to their doctors. And more times than not, that's not happening. And the reason I know this is I talk to doctors every single week. Over the last year, I tallied up the number of docs I talked to who integrated, who paid a really high upfront fee and then felt like the service that was delivered afterward didn't meet expectations. And a lot of these doctors were successful people, but they either struggled with their integration, they gave up on it, they went bankrupt, or are just kind of limping along and barely getting by. And the management company or consulting group is like, hey, we gave you the protocol, we gave you the system, it's your fault, like you're not doing a good job. Or here's the other thing is, well, it seems like you're struggling, maybe you should come to our next live event. And at the live event, you go to these seminars, and basically it's just a huge sales pitch for all these vendors that are supposed to help you fix your problem, or they have a solution to the problem that you're dealing with, whether it's a staffing problem or a billing problem or a therapy problem. Like there's always an upsell, there's always something that they can sell you on. And the reason they have to do that is because they didn't deliver a high quality of service up front. And why should they? You've already paid them all their money. Like there's no incentive for them to help you be successful or help grow your practice or increase revenue or streamline your expenses. There's no motivation for that. And so one thing that I would highly encourage you to do is look for groups who, and by the way, let me back up for a minute. When I first started consulting, that's the way I did it. If you wanted to learn our systems, you got to pay a chunk of money, and that's how we operated. And the more I talked to doctors and the more I realized what the real pain points are for doctors, the more I realized like that system actually doesn't make a lot of sense. In fact, it makes doctors really nervous and scared to come on as a client because they're worried that that's going to happen with their office, is that they're just going to pay me a bunch of money and I'm just going to hop to the next client and then hop to the next client, never really delivering a good value for clients. And so I really, after this pool incident, and then after looking at what doctors are really needing and what they're wanting, we changed our system. So now if we teach you integration, we don't charge these big upfront fees anymore. We actually don't charge anything upfront. And so we take you through the integration process, we onboard you, we help you launch your practice, we help develop your practice, but we get paid on the back end. So if you do well, if your clinic does well, guess what? We do well also. If your clinic flops, then we flop right alongside you. We don't make any money. And so we actually have real skin in the game to deliver on the promises that we've talked about up front. Because you all have expectations. Doctors, they want to integrate because they want to make more money, they want to help more patients, they want to have a sellable asset later in their practice. And so if we can't deliver on that, then what's the use? And so many doctors have jumped into integration because they were promised the world and they just couldn't figure out how to make it run. And the problem with integration is integrated offices, they're difficult to run. They're not easy. And people say, well, your company is called Simplified Integration. And the reason it's called that is we do make it easier, but it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're walking into integration and saying, all right, I got my 200-page manual, this is how to do it, I can read and follow instructions and everything will go smoothly. Like, you're in for a surprise. That's not how integration works. Integration is, it's a heady game. You have to roll up your sleeves and get to work to learn the processes and build a good team and make sure that you can take care of your patients and all the little steps that are necessary to run a successful integrated practice. It's a lot. And so we're not what we consider a big box management company. We're very selective in the clients we bring on. We don't bring on a ton of clients. And we do that so we can focus on really developing your practice and your clinic to be successful and to reach the goals that you originally set out when you first integrated. So that is my position on paying upfront consulting fees. I used to do it the other way. We have switched because we realize that it's a lot more valuable to us and to our clients to do it in a different way. And so it takes out a lot of the upfront risk. It's a lot more. There's a lot more a sense of security for clients doing it that way. So that's my take on it. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, and we hope to see you on the next podcast episode. This is Dr. Wells signing out. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.
Hey, innovators. Thanks for listening to the Simplified Integration Podcast. The fact that you're listening tells me that you're like me, someone who loves simplicity. And the truth is, those who embrace simplicity are some of the greatest innovators. So I hope you got a ton of value from what we covered on today's episode. Be sure to subscribe and share with other docs that you feel could benefit from greater sophistication through simplification and innovation. If you've got specific questions that you'd like answered on this podcast, or you've got specific topics that you'd like me to discuss, just shoot me an email at info@integrationsecrets.com. That's info@integrationsecrets.com.